Hello, and we are live from North Seattle. And my name is Tim Bernard, and this is Beyond the Headlines, where we take a much different look at what is going on in the world. I'm not reading from a script. These are just stories pulled from the headlines at my website. I usually put up anywhere from 40 to 60 or more uh, articles every week, which you can look at. We're just going to touch on a bunch of stuff. And that's just my news website. There's also a moral website that you can find, a religious website, if you want to link across to it. My free press website, though, is just basically news. And we're not the high-priced, bought-off press. If I had a fraction of the money that these guys have, we could really put on one hell of a show, because we get paid nothing for doing this. And they'll say whatever the script is that's put in front of them, because they're paid seven figures. And there's a long list of people waiting if they get a little backbone and a conscience and don't want to sell out people. And they're trying to prop up Hillary is who our rulers would love, because it plays into the strategy that we're getting into of playing us off against each other. That was like the whole thing that's been going on for the last 6+ years with Obama, trying to get agitation between blacks and whites. All of the, I mean, this is a scientific, technological elite that is running the show. And we'll get into that more of people who have said this, but we are the resistance. This is a 21st century war. It's fought with information, with words. That's what how it's been done for a long time. And the reason for the V is came not only from the Vietnam War and the peace sign, but also the Vichy government in France in World War II. The partisans would just mark V's in public places to let the authorities know that they knew what was going on. And they openly say what they're doing, because that's how the game has to be played. They have to tell you what they're going to do to you, and you have to let them do it to you. And this is a book that they wrote. It's a permanent link on the on my website. You can go and take a look. The world's already been divided up roughly into the 10 regions. We're in Region 1, Subdistrict 10, or FEMA District 10. You can see our country's been divided up into 10. I mean, just check it out for yourself. But we'll eventually, when the dust settles after the purification, there will be a reign of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary. That's what's coming. To open the book of Revelation is Alpha and Omega, first and last. And we've already started. If you're reading the angels like have been sent to the four corners, there's Father Zudak there. He got that cross on his forehead in 1999. If you read in the book of Revelation, in case you never have, it's in the 6th chapter, where we're marked first. They'll be marked later. Don't worry, it's coming. First, we're going to have to get to the cashless society and everything, and you can see that unfolding right now in front of our faces. And like I say, the key to understanding the book of Revelation is to just take a look at it, Alpha and Omega, and in the middle is their time. And if you read it, you'll see that that is what's going on. This is a great event that happened 98 years ago, and today is an anniversary of the third apparition. And it was at this apparition that they were given these secrets and the vision of heaven and hell. And it's an interesting, the 100-year anniversary in 2 years will be this great alignment in the sun, which is right out of the book of Revelation. You can read it for yourself in chapter 12. And the chapters in the book of Revelation are less than a page usually, so they're not long chapters. And the picture of the crowd, that is from the miracle of the sun, which happened on October 13th of 1917. And the significance, all of the apparitions were on the 13th of 6 consecutive months. And that, if you want to find out what that is all about, read the 13th chapter of the book of Revelation, because that's their time. That's the warning. God warns us. And just how unique is this sign that's coming in 2 years now? Once in 7,000 years. There's major stuff going on both sides, and those with ears ought to hear, because it's not going to go away. You should read this stuff. It's sort of interesting. And something I brought up last time, this is a famous picture in the Vatican called Disputa, where there was one of the hardest subjects about Christianity was the Eucharist. As I've said, if anyone would like to have a debate about it, be happy to do that, and we'll use your Bible, whichever one that is. I've read most of the main versions at least once, and so anyway, hopefully someone will take us up on that. Something that, another thing that the mainstream news is not going to discuss, this is Bohemian Grove. They'll be meeting there in just a couple of weeks. The end of July, they meet there, and they're going to do a mock sacrifice of a child in front of that 45-foot stone owl. And you go, well, that's just some whack jobs from California. Every Republican president in the 20th century has been there. Yeah, and Democratic ones. But so something you want to check out. The other thing is the Georgia Guidestones. Like I said, they have to tell you what they're going to do right outside of Atlanta. I've personally been there. It's you can just walk to it. It's about 50 yards off of a paved secondary highway, like Highway 2 or Highway 12, whatever. And the new 10 Commandments, the first one is to maintain a population on the earth of 500 million. That's not our country. That's the whole earth. That's 90% of the people gotta go. That's their plan. That's all they talk about. If you do even minimal amount of research about this, because it's just not hidden. Anybody who says that this is not what they're up to, you're just clueless what the hell is going on. Or you can't handle it, or you're just a liar. I'm sorry. It's our mother warning us 400 years ago about what would go on, the loss of our morality in the 20th century, and who were one of these controlling groups behind it, the Masonic sects. And, you know, the Protestants are always going, yeah, you know, the Pope is the Antichrist. Well, actually, it's Catholic prophecy that the Antichrist will set up in Rome. And we're getting very, very close. Remember the prophecy of Malachi? We're very near the end. And this Pope, we got to pray for the Pope, just like I pray for Obama every day. And this is just one of their plans that we've got in the 1800s. I think it was Pius IX wanted all the clergy to read the Alta Vendita, where it says, you know, we're not going to be able to do this in a year or in a lifetime, but just year after year. And this one says, in 100 years' time, the bishops and priests will think they are marching behind the banner of the keys of Peter, when in fact they will be following our flag. These guys are very smart, And if you want to study what's going on, you should study the vision that Pope Leo the 13th, there's that 13 again, coming up. He had a vision where God was discussing things with the devil. And instead of Job, it's the church. And, well, what do we have? Here's the chairman of Fordham's, which is a Catholic college, theology department, marries another man. Okay? That's what's going on. Here's what's going on in Italy. Italian families protest forced cross-dressing. And this isn't even of teenagers. This is pre-teens. This is an elite that are trying, and they don't give a damn about homosexuality. They're just using it to divide and conquer. It's as old. This has been going on for thousands of years, this plan. And here's a protest. This is in Rome at St. John Lateran Church. Because the parents are a little upset, but they'll back off when we bring this to a forefront, and then they just keep coming and pushing it up and pushing it up. Now, there's a lot of good, strong faith in Africa and pushback on this whole system. This is a group of African bishops. And it's interesting, it wasn't too long ago that the African bishops had a bunch of the vaccine that the UN was passing out, the UN and Bill Gates and those folks. And they found out that 30% of the vaccines had sterilants in them. You see, these guys are a little sneaky. It would be too obvious if they put 100%. So they only make a third of the vaccine with sterilants in it because they love you. And so these guys have been exposing that. And of course, that's something the mainstream media doesn't talk about back here. It's buried in a back page. This is an interesting fella who's helping Christians because they're getting persecuted over there in the Middle East, which is what the plan was, to take down the Christianity, especially in the Middle East. It's just under serious attack in Iraq, Syria, Libya, and of course they're calling it humanitarian. Some of the folks that were leading the charge with the gay rights agenda, as far as money and stuff, Mr. Zuckerberg and his whole Facebook baloney, and Obama flaunting it with his rose-colored White House. But this is what will happen. And there's nothing wrong with not being attracted to someone of the opposite sex. Jesus said that. It's in the Gospels. And he also said that people would make themselves celibate, because that's what you would have to be. And the bulk of the sin anyway is from heterosexuals. Because even with all of the crap, the estrogen mimickers and crap they're putting in the plastics, and and all the propaganda and social engineering they're doing in schools and the media, it's still just a couple of % of people that are practicing gays. I mean, so it's very small, but hell is very real. And I bet hell is fabulous. Well, it's that old adage, misery loves company. And and here's a little kid being indoctrinated. There's a church, and woe unto the people, the leaders who are promoting this. And it's like when people come, oh, but it's just these loving couples. And I have friends that are gay. But we don't sit around and talk about it. We talk about the business that we share whatever is going on. It's not like, but they're not stopping there. It's just going to continue. That's just the next step. And then they're going to try to legalize pedophilia. Here's an article about bestiality and pedophilia. And they put some bestiality stuff in to a thing in the military about, back in 2012, did some articles about that and stories about it. They just continue on, slow but sure. Here's St. John Paul II saying that, hey, it's clear and emphatic opposition is a duty if you really call yourself a Christian. Here's laws in Ontario to reject Christian law school grads if you don't go along with their stuff. See, they're trying to get rid of religious freedom, which is one of the founding principles. And this is what we were warned about. Churches that refuse to perform gay marriages may lose insurance coverage. And the rise of priests who encourage sins against the faith. I've personally heard priests from the pulpit during their homily endorsing stuff like abortion. I mean, and all we can do is pray for them because, I mean, they don't understand just how real it is, and they are judged at a much higher level than the average people, because they are exalted. They are priests of God. And here we are in Seattle. Sixth graders can't get a Coke at school, but they can get an IUD. Here's the Pope has been down south here, and he's getting a hammer and sickle crucifix from the president of Bolivia. I mean, it's like, here's some Nigerian schoolgirls slit Christian throats under orders from Boko Haram. And we've done stories, it was BBC and New York Times, I believe, had some footage of some of the guys that we were supporting, like over in Syria, becoming suicide bombers because they were going to kill their family and stuff. But hey, they're going to do our work for us. I mean, most, if not, well, not all of them, but most of our elected representatives should for sure be thrown out, and if not, thrown in jail. And I've told ours that before, that is what they need to be happen to them. But yeah, here we go. I mean, you don't think that there are, if nothing else, guys who will dress up as a woman to go into a woman's bathroom? I mean, they put holes and try to videotape and all that kind of crazy stuff. I mean, there's dudes that just don't have control of it. And yeah, we'll put on a dress and walk in there. I mean, there's plenty of whack jobs out there. That's so crazy. This is one of the highest cardinals in the Vatican. I've personally talked to him. I would have really sort of hammered him, and I politely did, on financial matters. He's the head of the peace and justice stuff, and he's from Africa. But, you think he'd been screaming bloody murder about the eugenics operation that's going on. But they're all big on setting up this. They're playing right into the money changers' hands. Jesus kicked the money changers out of the church, and these guys are letting them in. Some of them, not all of them. There's a split coming in the church, unfortunately. And you can see that developing now. I mean, there's a Vatican speaker. Okay, so the Vatican allows this guys, and they won't let anyone in that doesn't agree with their position, which is hardly what science is. Science is looking at all sides. I mean, because we have plenty of people with doctorate degrees that don't agree with what's going on. But the Vatican speaker on climate thinks there are 6 billion too many of us. Well, now that sounds like something religious. I mean, here's just a satellite photo. Look at the difference between May of 1995 and May of 2015. That's the snow coverage. I mean, I look at this stuff and I just go, really? Oh, but don't Just listen to us. You know, because Al Gore invented the internet. Come on. And I've talked to top scientists about this. It's not hard to bamboozle these guys. This is what the United Nations Director of Planetary Initiative. No one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. That'll be like this Mark of the Beast thing. That's still a ways out because there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen first. It's not going to come as fast as they want, but we're heading into a hellhole. And how bad it's going to be depends on us. Here's a kid's TV host comes out in a gay pre-sex church video. At least he did lose his job, but and here's a black civil rights icon, Andrew Young. Probably young people don't know who he is, but he was right there with Martin Luther King. And what's his deal? The problem is blacks killing other blacks, not the Confederate flag. See, this is the whole divide and conquer, and let's not talk about the real issues, what's really going on. Like the most dangerous place for an African American is in the womb. Not only are blacks shooting each other, which has all been, a lot of it has been orchestrated. What has been done to the black family to break it up and destroy it by the promoting of the people they promote in the music industry and stuff, and who they show as cool. It's like even in these the shootings that they've been popularizing, there's been many other ones that would have been much better to popularize. Where there was, I believe, Kelly Thompson. We did a story on him. He was a white guy that these half a dozen police they beat him to death. And he's sitting there crying for his father. And his father was a policeman. No mention of that. There was also an interesting a black cop, I think he was a railroad cop, who got shot by some white cops just trying to get his badge out to show him. See, but this is a calculated, these guys are cold and they're calculated in what they are doing. But hey, we need Hillary. Hillary is so bought off and sold. Yeah, she'll be doing the jiggy with her girlfriends. This is what's coming. And they own the almost all of the Republicans are bought and sold. I mean, and it's speaking the truth in deceitful times. This is a revolutionary act. False flag operations, that's what's coming. Why? Because it works. That's all they do. They do it every year. They're going to do it this year. This is what Eisenhower warned us of, about a technological and scientific elite, and how would they be controlled? By the allocation of money. The same way they control the media whores. You want to sit here? I mean, you can't be totally fake like Brian Williams, because then they won't believe the bull. Well, I guess I can't say that. They won't believe the crap that you're saying. So you can't lie about yourself. You can only tell our lies. Read the script that we gave you and stay on script, and we'll give you, I mean, even though he's being demoted, he's still going to make $10 million. So he'll keep his mouth shut and do what he's told. This is what's starting right now down in the Southwest. Jade Helm, master of the human domain. They're doing the largest war games in our country. And you practice where you plan on going. And that's why they're practicing in Texas. And Texas has got a bunch of rangers and ex-military people that are setting up and are going to watch them. And they know which states are the most likely. Some states will just bend over and say, come in and rape and pillage us. We don't care. We're not going to fight against it. You know, remember, our country was set up by just a few percent of the population. And that's why they want to get rid of the guns. They don't care at all about people. They're doing most of the shootings, most of the big ones. And like I said before, and you can look it up, the largest one is black on black and all the drug deals and crap going on, which has been from the scientific takedown and social engineering against our black neighbors, which is a complete disgrace for people like Jesse Jackson or Obama or Oprah, who don't come out and make this known to the people. Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. The anniversary just a week ago, this is of the 7/7 bombing in London, and what a pile of crap that was. And this is the bus. I've got a great YouTube video on it because we could never figure out why they took the 30 bus. They took this number 30 bus and they drove it to Tavistock Institute, or not Tavistock Institute, but to Tavistock Square. And then I was reading a book by John Coleman, who's ex-MI6, where he lays out this Tavistock Institute and how they're one of these super think tanks that are very high up and connected. And it's like I said, this is like counting, they just laugh at how they throw it in our face. And when I was reading a book, I went, oh, that's why they did the bus. That must be Tavistock Square, I thought was where it was. So I looked up where the place was, and it wasn't in Tavistock Square. So then I went to the building to look at the building where this Tavistock Institute is, and there's a picture of it, which you can look up online, and it's number 30. And they just think this is funny. It's like counting coup. Just right in your face. Oh, you dummies, you deserve what we're doing to you. Now, pretty soon we're going to take some phone calls. If any of you have any questions or you're interested in anything, be happy to do that. But let's roll right on because I got a ton to do. Google, here's an article, eavesdropping tool installed on computers without permission. And we've been telling you how they're listening in and doing everything. Man, that was a long time ago. We started talking about that. Here's Obama. Yeah, he's going to have one hell of a legacy. The only question is whether we're going to live it. Now, these are some triggers that a fellow named Harry Dent put together for this next crash that, I mean, it's more than likely it's already starting, actually. Well, it's starting in China right now. I mean, they've gone down 30+% and have suspended some of the trading. And that's like the number 9 one on this, the Great China Bubble bursts. We have the resurgence of terror in Europe, and he put this together a few years ago. And of course, we've had some of the shootings from Charlie Hebdo and the other stuff going on. The fracking bubble is bursting because the price of oil is not going to go up because the Saudis don't want to lose their position, and so they're going to keep pumping oil on, and as things slow down, that'll make an even bigger glut. If they put the Iran deal together, there's going to be even more oil coming on. So, of course, and an interesting thing about the oil, the last time oil was this cheap, gas was like around $1. So they're making tons of money. So the oil companies don't really care if it doesn't go up. They're just screwing the hell out of us. What else we have? Falling commodity prices, a housing crisis, the auto sales collapse, and the auto sales are collapsing in China right now. And that's going to be huge because a lot of the, and an interesting thing, we paid in the last recession, part of that bailout and help money was to pay to move GM to China and stuff. Look it up. I mean, don't take my word for it. What else we got? The Democrat, and the Greek debt restructure. Looks like we'll talk more about the Greek stuff in just a bit. Looks like they're going to cave in, or have caved in. And Germany also is going to, we'll see them go down. Here's durable goods orders. So we can take a look at it starting to get red. We'll just have to see. Like I say, going through the summer, most collapses happen in the fall. Here's an article. London is now the global money laundering center for the drug trade, says a crime expert. And if you don't know this about London, there's a square mile within the city of London called the Financial District. And it's really like its own country. And that's where some of the worst of the shenanigans is going on. Right there. The euro is born to burn. It's born to collapse. This is Yanis Varoufakis. He was the finance minister for the Greek and the Syriza party that just got elected. I heard him talk a couple times. I was hoping that, and I can't stress this enough, to the Iceland. Just remember what Iceland did, to stand up, say no, because, we hear about all the debt that Greece is under. The bulk of the money that they borrowed went to the banks. It didn't go to the people. So they're just being screwed. And what they're doing to Greece, they're going to do to everyone. And by the end of this month, all the nations in the EU are supposed to have passed a law that makes it legal for the central bank to go in and do what they call a bail-in. They're just going to go in and take money out of your account. See, that's why, if you remember grandma or great-grandma and your grandfather or great-grandfather not trusting the banks and hiding money, that's because they steal it. It's happened before. They're going to do it again. And we did that stuff about MF Global not too long ago. And when the Greeks sold out, Varoufakis just a couple days ago said, adios, I'm not going to sell out my country. You guys can for this petty power. I was just watching their president strutting around with Merkel and all the other Holland and all the other chumps from the EU, and they're all patting him on the back. Good boy, sell out your country to the Troika. Here's an article we have on new home sales. You can see they're nowhere near the peak there in 2006. And I heard of some, and of course it's strong, fairly strong here. Matter of fact, I heard of a bid-up war on a house in West Seattle. They paid like 80 grand over what they asked because they got in a bidding war. And they're going to be really sorry in another year or two when this little bubble bursts. And it burst here in Seattle 7-8 years ago. Believe me, I know people who didn't do too well. Here's the blue curve is the participation rate. You can see we're at the level of people participating in the economy is back at a level not seen since 78. See, that's what I mean. We're so much weaker this time now than we were 7 years ago. As you can see how much, we were several points higher. And of course, Wall Street has been the beneficiary of all this money. And the Democrats and Republicans just lean into each other and play off each other. And if that hasn't become apparent in just the last few months since the Republicans got back into power and how they've just been working with Obama, and now the Democrats, and they're sort of out of power, they can pretend like they're for the people. We're standing up for the people, and they all need to go to jail. And that's what Iceland did. When the bankers threatened them, instead of bending over like our politicians did, the people said, listen, let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to go to jail. This is a Newsweek from the 70s. Oh, hey, we're going to run out of oil in less than 7 years. We're going to run out of natural gas in 10 years. And we had plenty of coal. But of course, we're swimming in oil.